Welcome to the Good Morning Ghana show.
Thank you for having me.
So, according to reports, your non-governmental organization had carried out study of the street child phenomenon in Accra a few months back, and it turns out that Fofo's story is similar to your research cases. Can you give us outlines of the factors contributing to this situation?
So, the obvious one appears to be poverty, because there are some very poor parents we encountered who, in spite of their situations, were not allowing their children out into the streets. Do you get?
There must be other related factors, or?
Exactly, yes. So, like the incidents of absentee fathers, ignorance, distorted beliefs and perceptions. And most depressing of all, the instances of sheer irresponsibility and misplaced priorities.
Expound on the issues of absentee fathers, please.
Now, it is not only the father who refuses to acknowledge or take responsibility for his child, but also the father with a narrow perception of fatherhood who sees his role as fulfilled so long as he has paid their school fees, so long as he has placed food on the table, so long as he has put clothes on the child's back, right? And then again, the significant difference between the two examples I've listed is that the child in the latter may not necessarily end up in the streets to beg in order to survive, while the child of the former is most likely to. So in both cases, however, the responsibility of the mother doubles. Now she becomes the only caretaker of the child, emotionally, physically, and financially. You understand? And when all of these are combined, three are combined, it can be very, very tasking, because she's now playing the role of herself and that of the absentee father.
Yes.
So moving on, it is bad enough for a mother to have to perform the double role of any of those three. So if she has to take on all of this, what then now happens? Because if you're carrying a load and you begin to feel the first crack of tension in the neck, what's the first thought that comes to your mind?
Unload.
Exactly. Which is what many mothers in these situations do. They unload at the first sign of any crack, and the load, unfortunately, is what? The child.
Like Fofo.
And yet, in spite of that, look at what happened. Masuru went on to make more babies, 2 more sons.
Which I find difficult to understand, because the opportunities are now available for unwanted pregnancies to be conveniently avoided.
That is true. But is it everyone who is aware of it, or who can be bothered to put in that little effort required for protection? Even considering that it is also translates into protection against sexually transmitted diseases, including AIDS.
So what is the problem? Ignorance or laziness?
I also say ignorance and attitude too, because if women who should act mature do not, can you imagine what's going on out there with all the immature but sexually active girls? But the question of attitude also has to do with one of the most distorted beliefs and perceptions, which is the equating of the essence of womanhood to reproduction. Now let's have a little litmus test here. Now, who is frowned upon more in the society? 1, the single or married woman, or the childless married woman?
The latter.
So you see to that, girls are pressured to prove their womanhood, whether they can adequately care for a child or not, which doesn't make any sense, because you know the popular saying, don't you? You give birth, God will take care of the children. I'm telling you. So in one of the villages we covered, it was common practice for a girl of 16 and above who had no child to be taunted and called names like man, woman by friends and family members. Children have now been reduced to trademarks,
which touches on the irresponsibility factor.
Now, take our study for example, Fofo. Where is her father? What about Masuru, who has gone on to make more children, even knowing that Fofo and her sister were surviving on the streets? Now, that's the question. All right. And what about the fathers? Why do many men refuse to care for their children, aside from the excuse of poverty? We came across situations where fathers were earning adequate incomes, but were refusing to care for their children because they were no longer in love with their mothers. Meanwhile, they had gone on to marry other women and make more babies. So you see to that.
Sad.
So there was this case that we met a woman whose husband had left her after several years of marriage. All right. And they had 6 children together. Now, he claimed he had a vision from God, in which it was revealed to him that his wife was an adulteress and that he fathered none of the 6 children. 1 week afterwards, he announced that he saw a vision. And this time, that God has revealed to him the woman who he was going to marry. Can you imagine? And funny enough, the woman he wanted to marry is actually a young member of his church where he was, heading as a pastor, which he has been eyeing the woman for a long time. So you see to that, and everybody could not say anything because apparently the man was an elder in the church, so no one challenged him. Now tell me, how is it that the woman, his former wife, who he has abandoned, now who has little or no access to afford paternity test, how does she debunk these absurd allegations?
Imagine.
So you see to that, it's crazy.